time about how my parents tried to sell me to a man who wanted to marry me. When I was born, my family had a lot of money, but my dad was into some sketchy business. When I turned 17, my parents basically lost all of their money. My dad was in debt and owed money to a lot of bad people. He owed one man $100,000. When I turned 16, I got my first boyfriend. He was really caring and our families were friends. My parents actually loved my boyfriend at the time. But when I turned 17, my parents asked me if I was okay with an arranged marriage. I told them absolutely not because I had every intention to marry my boyfriend. He and I had already agreed that we'd get married when we turned 18. Slowly, my dad started insisting that I needed to consider it. After I kept saying no, he finally decided to tell me the truth. He told me that we owed one guy $100,000 and the only way that he would let my dad off the hook was by marrying me. He even offered my parents money in exchange for my hand in marriage. I was terrified. When I found out about the truth that my dad owed $100,000, he basically told me that the only way we were going to save our family was if I married this man, and that he offered my dad money in exchange for me. I mean, I was actually scared for my life because this man was known to everybody for being dangerous. I couldn't believe my mom was going along with it, but she said it was the only way that we weren't going to get our house taken away. They basically told me not to worry because I could always get a divorce from him. But of course I didn't want to marry him at all. That very night I snuck out of my house and went to my boyfriend's house. I told him everything my parents said and he was shocked. After discussing it for a few hours, we actually decided to run away. I knew I had to go back to my house, but when I looked at my phone I had 10 missed calls from my parents. When I got home, they were waiting for me at the gate. And guess what? The strange man was there. My parents casually introduced me to this man. And when I looked at him, he was about 20 years older than me. He looked me up and down and handed my dad a check. The man looked me up and down and just stared at me. He handed my dad a check. That's when I yelled out that I was gonna go pack my stuff. Quickly packed a bag and escaped through my window. Luckily, my room was on the first floor. I ran for a few blocks where my boyfriend was in his car. Once I got in, we turned off our phones and drove an hour away. Then he told me he had a surprise for me. We got to this strange house and he told me to get out. When we went inside, there was a woman waiting for us. That's when he got down on one knee and gave me a ring. He told me that he would marry me in order to save my life. Everything happened so fast and we got married. When I turned on my phone, I had 100 missed calls from my parents. I told them what happened and they begged me to come back home. We got there, the strange man was there waiting for me. My now husband and I tell him to leave me alone. Thankfully, he ended up leaving. A few months later, my parents were debt-free. My mom sold all her jewelry and my dad sold his cars and a few other things. They should have done that from the beginning instead of trying to sell me. It's been 2 years since all that happened and I'm still married. The strange man has tried to contact me through Instagram. He offered me money once again to marry him. I told my parents and they think we should get a restraining order. What do you guys think we should do?
You guys wanted a story time, so let's go. Also, notice how I'm in my car. Yeah. So when I first got to my friend's house, I didn't feel anything. I walked in and everything was perfectly fine. We were just hanging out in the kitchen, all good. The whole night proceeded, ate dinner, everything was fine. As I was getting ready to leave, she goes, "Hey, come into my room. I want to show you a gift that my husband got me." He made her like this big sign that says like a cute quote that they have over their bed. So I was like, okay. So as soon as I walked into her room is when I feel it. I feel the heaviness and the darkness and like it's just there. And like the hairs to the back of my neck stand up and everything in me is screaming, go, like get out of this room. So I look at the sign, I'm like, that's a nice sign. Okay, can we go over here so I can talk to you? Like, can we just step outside so I can talk to you? So I go out there and I start telling her, I'm like, hey, anything weird going on in your house? I mean, have you had any type of experiences? Anything of that sort? Like, I'm trying to be very vague. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, when I walked into your room, I felt like heaviness. Like there's a very dark presence, specifically in your bedroom. I felt it. Like I almost felt like the air like left my chest. Like when I walked in, that's the feeling I got. And I was like, it's bad. So she goes, oh, I thought it was gone. And then she starts to tell me. She said that she had an experience the very first night they moved into their house. Being that they had just moved into that house, they slept on a mattress on the floor. They hadn't set up their bed yet. And that night she woke up to like, she opened her eyes and saw a man's face like right in front of her face. And she started screaming hysterically, woke up her husband. Her husband's telling her, you know, it's okay, it's just a nightmare. Like, it's okay, like, it's fine. After that night, she noticed that she was becoming tired and she was feeling weak and she had no desire to do anything. She even started calling out of work. She just didn't want to go to work. She would then wake up with marks and bruises like all over her back. She then started to have sensual dreams. At one point, her dream was so vivid that she thought her husband had actually come home early from work. He worked night shift throughout all of this. She actually thought her husband had come home early and surprised her. She got woken up to someone like going underneath the covers from like the footrests and sliding in. She said she felt happy, like she thought it was her husband. Oh, like, oh, hon, you came home early. Like, wow, you really must have really missed me. Like, You get the point. But then he started to become like way too rough. So she told him to stop, like stop, you're being too rough. So she lifted the covers off. When she lifted the covers off, there was no one there. So after that night where she thought her husband came home early and she lifted up her covers but no one was there, she just became more and more pale, more and more frail, tired. She would sleep all day long. Like it was getting out of control. But she noticed that she was actually looking forward to sleeping because she was looking forward to seeing this thing. Like she was becoming like attached to it in some weird way. Her husband then starts noticing the scratches on her back, and he's like, what's going on? Like, why are you waking up, you know, with all these scratches in the back on your back? Like, why are you having all these bruises? Like, what's happening? Like, what's going on? And she's pretty much telling him, like, I honestly don't know. Like, I go to sleep and I wake up and I have these scratches. So one day she's sitting there talking to her daughter. She tells her the story of like the night where she thought her husband came home early, and pretty much described her like all the other symptoms that she's had, that she feels sick and tired and all this stuff. And her daughter told her, like, hey, that sounds like an incubus demon. Like, that's what that sounds like. Like, look it up. That's pretty much what you're telling me right now. She tells her husband about it, and he looks it up and goes, this is a real thing. Like, this incubus demons are real, and this is what's going on with you. He ends up switching from working night shift to day shift so that he can be with her at night, so she wouldn't be like alone anymore. One night they're both sleeping. When she wakes up, because she hears someone say hello, she lays there scared, thinking that she's probably hearing things, that, you know, she's probably her imagination. So she kind of lays there quietly, and then she hears it again when it says hello, at which point she starts screaming and tells her husband, like, somebody's in the house, somebody broke into the house, if there's a man here, I can hear a man saying hello. So her husband like grabs his gun and he goes looking throughout the whole house, and there's no one there. After that night, they get an alarm system, they get cameras all over the house. Like, they're trying to like pretty much figure out how to like deal with this. They decide that they're gonna pray. They're gonna get a Bible, they're gonna pray every night, they're gonna bless their home, they're gonna like purify it and pretty much get rid of this thing. From which point she stopped having the nightmare, she stopped having the experiences, like everything kind of like slowed down, and it's been pretty slow ever since, until I went over there yesterday and sensed it. So it's still there, it's just been kind of dormant. It hasn't really been messing with her, but it's still there. What is the grimiest thing that a family member has ever done to you? I'll go first. So when I was about 18 years old, one of my aunts wanted to drug me in order for me to marry one of her sons. Story time. So when I was about 18 years old, I visited Colombia. It was my first time there since I was about 7 or 8 years old. This was my dad's side of the family. Again, didn't know much about them. I was actually staying with my mom's side of the family, but I would go visit them because I didn't know a lot about them, and I kind of just wanted to get to know them. Turns out that I have over 40 plus cousins, and it's a huge family. When I first went over there, everybody was super nice and it was great. The first time I went over there, they had like a little get together for me, just for me to meet a bunch of family members that I've never met before. One of my female cousins comes up to me and says, hey, my brother has a crush on you. And I'm like, your brother? Like, that would mean that he's my cousin. And she goes, yeah, but it doesn't really count because you guys didn't grow up together. And I'm like, it counts. It still counts. So I kind of brush it off. I don't want it to ruin the day, and I kind of just try to forget about it. A couple of days later, I get invited over again, and my aunt from my dad's side, now her son is the one that has a crush on me. She comes up to me and goes, hey, I want to buy you a dress. And I'm like, oh, that's nice. Like, you don't have to get me a dress. She's like, no, I want to, because who knows when I'll see you again. So she goes, let's go to my seamstress. You can tell her exactly what you want. She'll make you your dress with your perfect measurements. It'll be great. So I go over there. The lady gets my measurements. I tell her I want a red dress, etc. A couple of days before I'm getting ready to fly back to the US, that same aunt calls me and invites me over again. She goes, I'm going to throw you a party. Being that you're leaving in a couple of days, it will be like your goodbye party. We'll have a ton of food, music, it'll be great. Now I'm here thinking like, wow, that is so nice. Like, I don't know why I've heard such bad things, because they seem like such nice people. So the morning of the party, one of my cousins from my dad's side, mind you, there's over 40 of them. One of them found my mom's number and called her in the US and told her about the plan. So she called my mom and told her, your daughter thinks that she's going to a like goodbye party that they're throwing her. That is not a goodbye party. That's a wedding. They have her dress because they got her measurements. They have a cake, they have flowers, they have the music, they have the photographer, they have a whole wedding set up. Their plan is to drug her in order to get her to walk down the aisle and sign whatever she needs to sign. So my aunt's purpose for doing this is that she wanted her son to be able to come to the US. She obviously doesn't know how it works. I mean, just because we sign something doesn't mean he automatically is going to be able to come to the US. There's a whole process to it. She thought just for the fact that of us being married was enough for him to be able to apply for like a visa in order to come here. So yeah. Again, that whole family is not all bad. I do like some of them, but yeah.
I had several bad boys in my class, but Simon was the worst of them. He dated my best friend Holly until he dumped her in the most cruel way you could imagine. He told her, "You are the worst girlfriend that ever existed. You never make jokes, you are always quiet, and it's impossible to have fun with you." Holly is a super sensitive girl, so after the breakup, she cried for weeks non-stop, saying, "No guy will ever like me." I tried to console her, saying, "He's a jerk, forget about him." But she responded, "How can I? He gave me genital herpes and it won't go away." Okay, that was the icing on the cake. I knew I had to revenge Holly and destroy Simon's pathetic life. The only question was, how? I decided I first had to get close to him, and that wasn't too hard because he was constantly hitting on me. Most girls would have loved to date him because of his looks and charm, but I knew he was a selfish jerk. So, to revenge my best friend, I smiled at Simon. He immediately came over and said, "Hey, you look good today." I pretended to be flattered and responded, "Thank you, you look good too." We arranged a date at a restaurant, but instead of eating, Simon aggressively tried to kiss me. I wondered if this was actually working on girls, but then I stopped him saying, "Look, I really like you, but I can't kiss a guy on the first date." He laughed and said, "Okay, how many dates do you need to feel comfortable?" "Maybe 5. He smiled again. He probably already imagined taking my clothes off. But when I got back to school, I flirted with another bad boy. His name was Robin, and he had already been in 2 fights with Simon. They hated each other to death. And while Simon was a good-looking womanizer, Robin was fearless and dangerous. When I talked to him, I laughed about everything he said, flirting as hard as I could. I knew he was attracted to me, and to be honest, I liked him too. He was rough on the outside, but good from the inside. Well, when Simon saw us 2 talking, he came over and said, "Get away from my girl." Robin responded, "Don't annoy me." But Simon physically pushed Robin back and they started fighting each other again. It was crazy. Everyone in our school was watching. And afterwards, I told my friends to spread rumors that Simon and Robin were competing for me. Now their reputations were on the line. Whoever got me first would get the glory. It was almost funny. And the following weekend, I met up with Simon again. This time, I had dressed so sexy that he couldn't take his eyes off me. Meanwhile, I was giving him a lot of mixed signals. I non-stop smiled as if I desperately wanted to sleep with him. But whenever he touched me, I said, "No, not today." He could barely control himself. And when I got back to school, I flirted with Robin again. This time we were in the cafeteria though. Teachers were everywhere. So when Simon came over to us, he couldn't just punch Robin in the face. Robin said, "If you want to come sailing this weekend, I'm going to show you how to do it. And if you're lucky, we're going to catch a fish." I responded, "Oh my God, I love fish," cheering like a stupid little girl. But when Simon said, "Don't go fishing with that goof, I'll take you shopping and let you buy whatever you want," I responded, "Shopping? Oh my God, I love shopping too." Both of them were ready to kill each other. I almost enjoyed playing with them too much, so I had to remind myself that I was on a mission to destroy Simon. That's when I had an idea. I would simply show everyone in our school that Simon had herpes. Maybe then, girls wouldn't fall for him anymore. But first, I needed proof. So I invited Simon over to my place. He went right for the kiss, but I said, "Wait, my friend told me you have herpes. If you kiss me, will I be infected?" "What? No, I don't have any disease." "Come on, tell me the truth." "Okay, whatever, I have herpes, but it's no big deal as long as we are careful." "I'm sorry, I just can't do it." "Then why did you invite me here if you knew about it?" "I'm sorry, I'm so stupid." He was really angry and insulted me a few more times, but that only made it better because I was secretly filming us. Afterward, I met up with Robin, showed him the video, and explained that I had only hung out with Simon to revenge my best friend Holly. I said, "You have to protect me from Simon. I don't know what he's going to do when I send the video to everyone in our school." Robin smiled, saying, "No problem." Next week in school was crazy. Everyone talked about Simon and his herpes, but apparently he was too embarrassed to come back to school, so I didn't see him again. However, 6 months later, Simon wrote me a message saying, "Leave me alone." I responded, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Someone keeps sending your stupid video to everyone I know. It's ruining my life."
Am I the asshole for demanding my fiancé and his mom pay for a new wedding dress? Me, 26 female, and my fiancé, 28 male, have been engaged for 4 months. We're planning on having our wedding on October 18th. My future mother-in-law kept annoying me and sending me suggestions for choosing the right wedding dress and said that she knew better and tried to get me to approve of wedding dresses that she chose, and when she couldn't enforce her decision, she demanded I take her with me to buy my wedding dress so she could have an opinion. Before I went shopping, I asked her if she wanted to come, but started making excuses about how busy she was with my sister-in-law. So I went shopping with my mom, and I was able to find a really nice dress. I made some changes to it, and it was perfect. It arrived to my apartment at the end of the week, and I made sure it was stored in a safe place so it didn't get ruined. Yesterday, I got back from my mom's house, and I found that my fiancé wasn't home. Neither was the dress. I called him immediately, knowing that he must have taken it to show it to his mom, since she continuously asked to see it and refused to have me send her pictures of it. I was so mad when it was confirmed that my fiancé took it to show it to his mom, and he said he was going to be home in 30 minutes after he went to the supermarket. I waited for longer than I had to, and then when he arrived, I ran to get my dress that was buried underneath grocery bags. I took it to check on it, and its zipper was broken, and the dress itself was stretched out. I was like, what the fuck happened to it? My mother-in-law must have tried it on, because it looked ruined. I had to call my mother-in-law when my fiancé told me his mom and sister took turns to try it on. I was absolutely livid. She told me she did nothing wrong and that I was making a big deal out of it. She said she'd get a replacement for the broken zipper, but I told her to pay for a new dress since it was stretched out and no longer fitting. She refused and said that I probably wasn't happy with my dress choice and wanted for her to pay so I could get a new one. My mom said she'd pay for fixing it, but I just hate it now that someone else wore it before me. I'm mad at both of them and seriously considering postponing the wedding.
Do it. The mother and the sister, emotional incest. You tried on that wedding dress because you want to fucking marry your son.
Am I the asshole for refusing to let my niece swim in our pool with the other kids? Last week was my son's 12th birthday party. My family showed up to our house. I greeted my sister, who said she wasn't planning on coming since my niece, 14, was on her period and didn't feel like going out, but thought this would cheer her up a bit. I welcomed them, and they sat in the living room to eat. I was watching the kids swim when my sister and my niece approached the pool. My niece was in her swimsuit, ready to jump in with the other kids. I stopped them and asked my sister if she was really going to let my niece into the pool while on her period. She said it was fine, really, and that she took necessary precautions. I don't know what that meant as a guy, but still, I knew enough about periods to realize things could get messy. I said sorry, but I can't let my niece into the pool with the other kids in fear of any accidents. She angrily said my boys literally pee in the pool while we were talking, so accidents my ass. I just politely told her I was sorry, but it's different when dealing with blood than with urine, which is way too common in pools, by the way. Again, I said I wasn't going to allow any accidents on my son's birthday and suggested other activities for my niece. My sister blew up, calling me a raging, insensitive asshole, then, literally, and out of the blue, told my niece to get dressed because they were leaving. My parents then asked what was going on, and my sister told them I selfishly and meanly told her daughter off for wanting to swim in the pool with the other kids, just because she was on her period, and then she left. Mom gave me a look and shamed me up and down for how I treated my niece and sister. I said I didn't tell them to leave, just didn't agree on letting my niece use the pool when she's on her period, especially since I've asked my sister if she's done it before, and she said no. I honestly don't want to have to deal with cleaning up a bloody pool for the sake of what? Family? I just felt it was inappropriate, and besides, it's not like she's banned from the pool for good. Mom said I was still in the wrong, no matter how hard I try to spin shit. My wife said I didn't overreact, but at least I could have been nicer about it. Was I the asshole in this situation?
Yeah, you were the asshole. You have only boys. They definitely pissed in that pool. But the little boys are not sharks. They're not going to smell one hit of blood and be like, all right, we're going to swim towards the niece. This man has no idea how women's body works, and there are 3 generations of women being like, you sound insane. And he's like, I'm not insane.
I've, 26 female, been dating a new guy, 30 male, for 5 months. I like him. and he invited me to his parents' house for the long Memorial Day weekend. So the parents order takeout Friday night for everyone, and it's this extremely spicy Indian food. Not my first choice, but I'm going to try everything to be gracious. Wake up early Saturday at his parents' house. Feel a bit off, but maybe I just need breakfast. Meanwhile, the guy I'm dating and his father have planned a pre-breakfast run, and the dad is like really laying on the pressure. Reluctantly, I put on running shorts and whatnot and head out to the driveway with the two of them. After about 15 minutes, I had fallen a bit behind, and I was realizing something was very not okay in my body. The dad slowed down to shuffle next to me. Quote, "You okay?
Oh no.
Need a break? You look really white in the face." We were at least a mile from their house, standing on a fully quaint, tree-lined residential street with no public bathrooms or even woods, and I was not okay. I stopped shuffling. The guy I'm seeing responded to his dad's shout and ran back and put his hand on my back. All I remember is saying, "Don't fucking touch me right now."
Oh,
At a
no.
at a point of no return, leave me. Fast. Just run ahead. I'll meet you back at the house. Did they listen? You bet not. They insisted on staying and calling his mom to drive their car to pick us up. I couldn't even speak. I tried to walk towards a tree, but it was too late. I fully shit in the middle of the road. Not like a cute shit I could hide in my shorts. The kind of unforgivable and unspeakable shit where you have to flush the toilet a few times.
Poor
A
thing.
small or maybe large piece of my soul and dignity was left behind on that street a few weekends ago. I fled the weekend trip early after my shower, making up an excuse. I have told the guy since that I just can't face him in person yet. Someone please help. Am I the asshole for wanting my mom to be in the delivery room when my wife has our baby? My wife, Alice, 28 female, is 7 months pregnant. She's starting to think about who she'd like to have in the delivery room when the time comes. She said she would really like her dad there for support. Alice is really close with her dad since she was a kid and has only grown closer to him since her mom died, so that was no surprise. I'm completely fine with having Doug there. She said she doesn't want her stepmom there, which is fine. Her stepmom is really sweet, has been so helpful through the entirety of the pregnancy, and I know she will be hurt when she finds out she can't be there, but I can understand. The issue I have is that Alice doesn't want my mom there. My mom has never been my wife's biggest fan, but she is so excited to have a grandchild and has been planning on being in the delivery room the entire pregnancy and likely before. Like I said, my mom has been hard on Alice and can be a little judgmental, but she's still the grandmother of our child and wants to be there. She's also my mother, and I find it unfair that she can have her dad there, but I can't have my mom there. It's a high-risk pregnancy, and Alice has been really adamant about trying to give birth naturally, but she claims that if things take a turn and she wants an epidural or there needs to be an emergency C-section for whatever reason, she is worried about the judgment from my mom because my mom has openly expressed her distaste for both. Additionally, she says my mom is not the nicest to her. I know my mom has been a little harsh about her weight gain, even though about 30 pounds. She was 120 before. Allegedly, when my wife went over to my parents' house recently, she dropped a plate on the floor, and my mom yelled at her while she made her get down on the floor and clean it up.
Oh my gosh.
I understand where Alice is coming from, and while she'll be the one giving birth, he is my child as much as hers, and I feel like I should be allowed to have my mom there. My wife and I got into a scuffle about this before she started crying, and the issue was dropped. She told me that I was being selfish, but I feel like she was being selfish too. Am I the asshole for wanting my mom to be in the delivery room while my wife has our baby?
Honestly, kind of, yeah.
Yeah. She goes, me, 22 female, and my boyfriend, Jacob, 25 male, have been dating for 3 years. He's always been the fun, bubbly type person in the friend group. Always smiling, always laughing, always up for chit chat. 6 months ago, January 2021, due to COVID, we haven't been able to travel anywhere, and we used to go on little weekends away. We live in Australia, and the country's back open for travel, so I was like, let's organize a little weekend away. He was all down for it. We went to the Hunter Valley, a winery region. I don't know what happened on that trip, but he has been depressed ever since. Doesn't laugh, doesn't smile, doesn't ever want to talk. It's like something clicked in his head, and he just changed. There was no leading up to this. He then starts mentioning his ex.
Oh, okay, now it's starting to make sense.
We never really bring up our ex-partners. All I know is me and her are complete opposites. Taylor, she's blonde, 5'3", Australian Elle Woods. Me, brunette, 6 feet, farm girl.
6 feet?
Races
Go off,
dirt
queen.
bikes. Yeah, seriously. One night during sex, he called me Taylor.
Wait, the ex's name?
Yeah.
No.
Maybe a couple weeks after that, I was cooking dinner and he said, "Oh, Taylor would cut the bread this way." I kind of just ignored it because at this moment, he's in a really depressed state. He has made a few more comments saying Taylor did this or like this over the next 2 months. 3 months ago, in April 21, his dad passed away in a car accident, which sent him into just a spiral. It was the deepest part of his depression. I've never had a problem with his family. They're welcoming, always there if I need anything, very, very supportive. I'm there trying to support his mom because she just lost her husband by cooking meals, cleaning around the house. She said, "You've missed a spot on the floor over here." When Taylor would mop the floor, she wouldn't miss a spot.
What the fuck?
This made my blood boil. Another day I had it over there. I was just wearing like sweats and a jumper, like I'm going to go cook food and don't need to be looking like $1 million. He said if Taylor was the rock at my house, she would look presentable. So I walked out. Am I the asshole for walking out?
No!
Will I be an asshole if I leave my depressed partner?
No!
Is she an asshole to compare me to one of his ex-partners?
Yes.
Am I the asshole for making a scene of my adult son and sticking my nose in his marriage? Here's the important background. My daughter-in-law, 32, and son, 33, have 3 children, aged 3 years, 2 years, and 4 months. He convinced her to be a stay-at-home mom and sell her business by telling her how good of a childhood he had and how happy my marriage was without telling her, in parentheses, which I found out today, that our arrangement was everything before 9 a.m. and after 5 p.m. was split 50-50. Sunday was my day off, and I was brought out twice a week. On to the story. On my last visit, I noticed my daughter-in-law was struggling mentally. So I, my sister, 55 female, and her girlfriend, 53, pulled our money together and paid for a spa weekend for them while we'd babysit the kids for her birthday last weekend. I was preparing on Thursday evening for the kids to arrive when my daughter-in-law rang me, holding back tears, saying they won't be going because my son's friend came to town and he said he wanted to spend the weekend with his friends catching up. I pressed her a little and I'm talking a little about her situation. She came clean about him doing no chores, no date nights, and her basically doing all of the childcare because, quote, that's what stay-at-home moms do. I was honestly disgusted. I convinced her to drop me off the kids and bring a friend to the spa. I even dipped into my savings to give her £500 to buy herself something nice. When she dropped me off the kids, I begged her to tell me where my son was. After 5 minutes, she told me the bar. She left for the spa, while I left for the bar. Here's where I might be the asshole. I went to the bar where he and his friends were. I sat down next to the group and asked my son, quote, "Did I fail you as a mother, or was it your father? Because we both thought your partner comes before your silly drunk friends." Long story short, I humiliated him and got myself banned from the bar. My daughter-in-law said she will be taking the kids to her parents when she gets back tomorrow, and my son is calling me an asshole for humiliating him, sticking my nose in his marriage. Maybe I should have stayed out. I don't know.
Oh, I got stuff on this one. Wow.